So, William, today we are talking about Microsoft Cinemania. Let me pass this to you cooler. Microsoft Cinemania 95. What do you know about
this? Absolutely nothing.
Okay. Well, you know that Roger Ebert likes it because he's giving his thumbs up. He's
giving the thumbs up, and Leonard Maltin's face is on here too. Wow,
these are the big rigs of film journalism.
And I recognize. I'm gonna butcher her name, Pauline Kael.
Yep, Pauline Kael. Is there a picture of her, or is she just in it?
It just says one of her books, 5001 Nights at the Movies.
Yeah, so Pauline Kael, Ebert, Leonard Maltin, like these are big hitters.
Yeah, holy crap!
If they just put their books on a disc, I'd be happy. But this is so much more. This is Microsoft Cinemania 95.
Cinemania, brother.
It's so excited we made up a disease. That's how good it is. It's Hulkmania, but for film lovers. I think this is a fun piece of software. Before we crack it open and I show you what it does,
okay,
we have to look back to the era of edutainment, of the CD-ROM revolution.
Mm-hmm.
What are your feelings on edutainment as a medium?
Oh gosh, there's like this computer program I had on CD-ROM. I think it was like Granny's Alphabet Soup or something. And that's what it was called. And right. It had like this kind of weird jingle and like opening like music track and everything. And there was like all these different activities. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was just like I remember it being pretty educational for me at the time. And like, yeah, we had all these like, at school, we had like computer programs like Millie's Math House and all that stuff.
Sammy's
like,
Science House.
Sammy's Science. Yeah. It was like such a different time.
So you got Granny's Alphabet Soup. Did you have anything else at home that was like edutainment?
At home, I think it was mostly just the Granny's Alphabet Soup one. Nice. But then, yeah, I played some of I vaguely remember playing like Millie's Math House. That's how I remember it by name. And Sammy's Science House, those alliterations and everything. So,
I mean, I think when I was doing research for this episode, I realized like we were in this exact moment in history where the computer lab was in an early stage of being basically a training facility for the office, for like doing business in a corporate world. Yeah. So you got the 90s where edutainment is stuff like Reader Rabbit. And it's things that are in many ways like encouraging curiosity or playing to like what a child might want out of a computer game while still being relatively educational. Yeah. By the time you and I would have been growing up, the computer lab had really just become a place where it's like you learn how to use Microsoft Office, you learn how to type, learn how to build a resume and make a website. And these are things that obviously, there's people have studied this more than I have, but the idea of public schools are sort of in cahoots with private industry. And because computers are so enormously expensive, especially at that time, there has to be a reason for the school board to buy these machines. Mm-hmm. And so the excuse becomes, well, this will help train children for the workforce. Right. Which in a vacuum, there's nothing wrong with. But it gets into this whole question of why does school exist? Is it to foster curiosity and learning for the sake of learning? Or are we just here to train kids on using the little scanner guns at Amazon workhouses, right? Like, is there a point to all this?
Right.
And I feel like the generation right before us, when I hear like my older siblings talk about the computer lab, I was like, oh, you were having a bit more fun than we were. Because like by the time I was in elementary school, like stuff like Cross Country Canada was sort of in the rear view, pun intended, but it was sort of stuff from the past. Even Math Blaster, Reader Rabbit, a little bit outdated. And we got to play all the right type. That's not even a game. Like it's like you get to learn how to type, learn how to use. We used AppleWorks at one point because that was on Windows. So it's like, here's how you build a website using these basic tools. And it was all learning how to use the computer to eventually be a useful member of society in the capitalist workforce. We grew up in a very boring time, I guess is what I'm trying to say for computers. What was happening, and this will bring us into Microsoft Cinemania 95, was that Microsoft, and really every tech company, but in this case we're talking about Microsoft, they wanted more computers and more homes because the vast majority of computers, it's still today, but especially at the time, ran Windows. If it's a computer, it's like 80% likely it's going to be Windows. The only way really for them to grow their market share or to sell more units at that point is just get more people to buy computers. So the problem wasn't necessarily winning over Apple users. It's let's just get more computers and more homes. And around this time is where you get the... some people would call it the CD-ROM revolution, but CDs are starting to become a thing, which is, a significant amount of data relative to a floppy disk. Someone wrote a book about how much they love CDs. It's called The New Papyrus.
Oh, hell yeah.
with a foreword by Bill Gates.
No way.
Yeah. And so I'm going to read you a quote from Bill Gates here because it's very like excitable 90s, like, yeah, CDs.
Wow.
Microsoft is extremely excited about the vast potential of this emerging CD-ROM technology for a number of reasons. The CD-ROM has 1,000 times the storage capacity of a floppy disk, yet the costs of the CD-ROM disk and the floppy are nearly equal. The combination of a CD-ROM with a microcomputer creates a medium that potentially is more interactive than any previous consumer product. We believe this interaction will result in a product that will stimulate and enrich a person in a manner that is far superior to passive systems such as television.
Whoa.
You know, you can kind of hear the difference in that quote between Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. Like, Bill Gates is clearly trying to sell you something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, this will stimulate you. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Where Steve Jobs is like dreaming broadly about the future, right?
Yeah.
So at some point, Microsoft decides that their main enemy in the computer space is the home encyclopedia, like the actual like set of books, the Britannica. For some reason, that they set their sights on Britannica.
Wow.
Microsoft says, we're coming to kill you, Encyclopedia Britannica. And so what happens at this time is that Britannica is worried that, like, what if computers replace home encyclopedias? Which, to be clear, our family was never wealthy enough to own a set of encyclopedias. You had to be like vaguely middle class or upper middle class and interested in encyclopedia. I don't know. Did you have a set as a kid?
No.
Okay, fair. The only person I knew who had one, I knew two families. One was incredibly wealthy. The other was like a working class guy with a credit card problem, and he just like bought some encyclopedias.
Jesus.
And never read them.
Wow.
Anyway, so encyclopedia is this huge thing that you have in your house. They cost in today's dollars, they're about $3,000 or $4,000. So this was like a significant investment. And so Microsoft's in the mid 90s, Microsoft comes up with their own digital encyclopedia software called Encarta. Microsoft Encarta, and their pitch essentially, and it's a pretty good pitch, is that for $1,500, which adjusted for inflation, $4,000, $1,500 could buy you a set of encyclopedias from Britannica, or you could buy an entire computer system and our software, which is much cheaper. Encyclopedia Britannica, they make a CD version of their encyclopedia for $300. Microsoft sets their Encarta to about the same price. And then they lower the price, and then eventually Microsoft just starts including this free with home computers.
Whoa.
Which was pretty illegal to do. They used to get sued for that a lot. It's called bundling.
Oh, damn.
Internet Explorer, they had to go to court. It was a whole thing. They made a Night at the Roxbury parody about it. It was really quite odd. But anyway, Microsoft, as we all know, they're a pretty vicious company. And so they were going after Encyclopedia Britannica. And there's this kind of quote that is chilling because, you know, what Microsoft wants is more computers and more homes because not every home in the mid-90s had a computer. By 2009, basically every, let's say, like working class household has some form of computer by 2009. I feel like that's not too controversial to say. The computing revolution happened and was successful. And as soon as that happened, Microsoft was like, fuck it. We're done with this encyclopedia software.
Yeah.
And I'm going to read you this quote from Ernie Smith. And in the end, what was it all for? Microsoft dropped an entire industry worth of information with a thud in 2009, 16 years after changing the encyclopedia industry forever. Wikipedia happened, yes, but there were other ways for Microsoft to handle the problem of dealing with this store of information, much of which it owned outright. Handing its work to the research community would have been a great option, as would have spinning off the product as an open source project. It did neither of these things, despite literally having billions of dollars at its disposal, and we shouldn't forget that.
Good Lord.
So that's a pretty scathing quote by Ernie Smith. And I think he's on the money, because if you consider, you know, Encyclopedia Britannica, it's been around since the mid 1700s. This is a multi-years project, multi-centuries project. Microsoft sends their own research teams to go do the same thing. And apparently, some have alleged, and there's actually a person at Microsoft who alleges this, that the only point of Encarta was to get more computers and more homes, and then they'd shut down the project. Apparently, everyone knew this.
Wow.
It's a bold claim, but can you imagine, like, these, you know, ethnographers, researchers, whatever, like, going around the world to collect information, all for the sake of Microsoft selling Windows licenses, and then, like, destroying the information. Like, all the work that went into this encyclopedia is gone now.
Oh, God, yeah.
Like, it's just a weird thing to think about. It makes me pretty uncomfortable. Anyway, let's just sit in that uncomfortable feeling for a moment. But this video is about Cinemania 95, which was part of this package called Microsoft Home, which was related to Encarta. And Cinemania 95 has some really cool features that we're going to go over. But I think the real thesis of this video is that Cinemania 95, all that information was taken from these books, but it's all been replaced essentially by IMDb. If we can go to Windows XP, I have it all loaded up here.
Beauty.
We're going to hear some really exciting intro music.
Wow.
It's like such a triumphant song. It's like you just like won a theater. You just I don't know, it's very odd.
So grandiloquent. It's like, you know, I mean, it feels like the Oscars themselves. It's like all this like kind of pomp and circumstance. It's like, oh, wow, get ready for information learning. And it's all like, you know, all this like glitzy music.
Yeah, it's like, how do you make the encyclopedia exciting?
Yeah.
Which, anyway, so here is Cinemania 95. So I guess the coolest feature, I'm just going to show the coolest feature right away before we get too into the weeds. So let's say we type in a movie. Well, let's just click on this one, 12 Angry Men. It's near the top because it's alphanumeric. It'll tell you where you can find this on VHS.
Whoa.
Has been released on both video cassette and laser video disc. That's pretty exciting. There's a little movie still that we can see. You can read Pauline Kael's review.
Wow.
Cinebooks. I don't know what that is. But the cool thing, the killer app. Well, there's two killer apps. The first killer app is that everything's hyperlinked. So you click Sidney Lumet, click on it, and bam, there's a biography. But filmography. All the films.
Wow.
That he has made. Which, I mean, it's weird. It's such a common feature now of IMDb.
Oh, yeah.
But like this was new. This was like, you know, you can click on Listen Up the Lives of Quincy Jones. You click on that, you can see what Ebert thought about it. You can also print the review if you want. No printers were found, but you could if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Click on Steven Spielberg. Look at, there's a photo of him from the 90s.
Beautiful.
Filmography. Oh, you can see Duel. Let's click on Duel. Anyway, you see what I'm getting at. I'm over-explaining the IMDb-ness of it all.
Yeah.
But I want to show you a feature that IMDb does not have that it should, which Netflix only recently added. This is a very cool feature that I think is missing in the modern era. So there's this little roulette wheel, and you click on a sort of broader genre, pure imagination, and it doesn't like roulette a movie, but it roulettes a subgenre. So serious fare. Let's click serious fare.
Okay.
And Vietnam films. Let's roll it again. Celebrated silence. Silent plural, not silence the thing. Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's pretty novel. I mean, I know Letterboxd has been gradually incorporating micro genres a bit. That's like, at least on the app. Yeah, I appreciate like if you're going for like a very specific kind of aesthetic for sure. Yeah.
It's sort of a tired joke at this point, but how long do you spend on Netflix just scrolling, not knowing what to watch?
Absolutely.
And now they've added a sort of randomizer. But this was the mid-90s. You could just roulette all the movies that have ever been made.
Craziness.
And then you can see what Malton says about it. And it has to load. Took a second. And I'm going to search for a review that is a very exciting, a very famous review. I think you know what I'm getting at.
Ooh. Isn't it?
Okay, Isn't It Romantic, 1948, the Malton review.
Whoa.
That is the world's shortest movie review. It has the record. Isn't It Romantic, Malton review, no. Which, he's not like a quippy guy. I don't know why he said that.
That's so bizarre.
Anyway, this is the famous Guinness World Records shortest movie review.
I love how it's like, you know, you would think with how blunt and efficient it is, like he wouldn't give it like 2 stars. Like that still seems generous. It's like, you know, it's supposed to be this emphatic, like cutthroat, like no. And it's like, yeah, you know, it's like mediocre, like middle of the road, 2 stars out of 4. Like,
that's so funny. Yeah, 2 stars. I never realized that. 2 stars. That's like generous.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Isn't it romantic? No. That's fun. It reminds me, I did a Letterboxd review of, I think, some Seth Rogen movie that was like really angry.
Yeah.
And at the end, I was like, yeah, 3 stars. And someone at school was like, what? I was reading your review. And then at the end, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Anyway.
I've had moments like that. I get it.
You just start forming sentences and you're like, whoops. That's kind of all the features of Cinemania.
Okay.
But if we go to video sources, they have movie clips. And I love these because they're like, oh no, video sources is something else. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
See movie clips. They have like these really pixelated, obviously,
Yeah.
videos. Let's see what we got. Oh, this is all the video clips.
Yeah. That's weird because it's giving you all these options and then it redirects you if it doesn't already. Yeah.
Oh, so there's like 20 film clips at most. Oh, that's disappointing.
That's a bummer.
What's the least problematic? Jaws.
These are all, a little spicy.
Yeah. All right, Jaws. Let's look at this Jaws clip. Oh, of course, it's this clip.
The classic.
Anyway, that's basically it. I'm also curious if Pauline Kael's Halloween review is in here. Because I know she did not like it.
Ah, interesting.
Oh, yeah, this is my favorite quote. He isn't very gifted with actors, and he doesn't seem to have any feeling at all for motivation or for plot logic.
That's insane.
I love that. There's so much subjective tracking, you begin to think everybody in the movie has his own camera. So, anyway.
God.
I think that's a fun review. So, it's not in this version of Cinemania, but I think there's 2 more versions because it goes until 97. But they add some features that are very high budget and very would be difficult for a site like IMDb to pull off. Letterboxd has sort of continued some of the tradition of Cinemania in terms of getting actors and famous directors to like suggest their favorite movies. But Cinemania was doing that in the mid 90s. And so there's this quote from Den of Geek, Simon Brew. He has an article, Remembering Microsoft Cinemania. As I write this, I'm listening to John Waters talk about showmanship as the screen updates with the details of films and people he's talking about. Next up, I'm going to listen to Haskell Wexler?
Oh, I know them.
Okay.
Yep.
Haskell Wexler talking about cinematography. These features are brilliant, a hugely accessible, entertaining film school. Granted, IMDb has some features that touch on the same idea, but it's hard sometimes to shake the feeling that it's all going to lead to a link to buy things on Amazon at the end of it all. Which is kind of interesting. It's like when you buy the CD-ROM, you get the full experience, whereas everything on the internet that's free is basically an ad to buy something.
Yeah.
And so Cinemania would end up, it's not in this version, but it would end up having like little audio things of directors recommending movies they liked. And some of that's on the Criterion channel now, but this was like mid-90s, and IMDb still doesn't really have anything like it. So I think that's kind of a cool feature.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything you wanted to look up on Cinemania.
Oh, boy.
I mean, you already know where to find movies. But
yeah, I could just kind of play around. Yeah, I like this kind of, I think given how the internet has evolved so much, everything's, I guess, decentralized or sort of the novelty of like kind of isolated experiences like these has been kind of removed. Having this like informative disc be like, oh, here's like this kind of comprehensive guide to like so many different movies and like all stored within a disc that you're like voluntarily like going with the intent of like loading up the service compared to just like jumping on Wikipedia or something like. Yeah, it's just like a very immersive and like different experience. Yeah,
so you can kind of see how this would be the next evolution of like the Malton book that you'd have on your coffee table where it has all the movies.
Yeah.
Because this is the same kind of deal. You buy a new copy of Cinemania every year to add the new movies.
Yeah.
I'm assuming Cinemania 96 would have like Pulp Fiction on it. And yeah, it's hyperlinks. I'm running out of things to say. It's just text and hyperlinks. And there's a few movie clips, but not enough to justify the price tag. But anyway, I think Cinemania is a pretty good time. You get all the Malton reviews, get some Ebert reviews, Pauline Kael. I mean, those are basically all the famous movie critics. So
that's them, all 3.
That's all 3 of them. I didn't even really have a conclusion. I just what a cool piece of software.
Here it is.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I guess let's all take a moment to mourn the fact that Microsoft demolished the 300 or 400 year tradition of encyclopedias.
Moment of silence, yeah.
Just so they could sell Windows 98 licenses. That's kind of sad. That's weird. That's like it's literally burning down the library of Alexandria, right?
Good Lord.
Anyway, so that's a downer note to end on. Well,
at least go find some copies of Cinemania at your weird thrift stores and everything. Keep the information alive.
Yeah. If you want to help society, go buy one of the Leonard Maltin movie guides, and then which I think the last one was published 3 years ago. So go grab a copy of that, and you can finally learn about what movies are. That's the whole video.
Beauty. All right.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.